ASMR. Today I am back with another DVD Discoveries video, and today we are going to be having a little explore about some trivia from The Shining. Now this is a double pack with The Exorcist, but we will not be talking about that today. Just Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. There is a little bit of a mention of Exorcist during the trivia, so if that doesn't tie you in to want to watch more, then I don't know what will. Anyway, first of all I'm going to start by reading the back. The plot, for those who don't know the plot, this will be very insightful, and for those who do, well, it won't be as insightful as if you've not watched it. So, The Shining. Think of the greatest terror imaginable. Is it a monstrous alien? A lethal epidemic? Or, as in this harrowing masterpiece from Stanley Kubrick, is it fear of murder by someone who should love and protect you? A member of your own family? From a script that he co-adapted from the Stephen King novel, Kubrick melds vivid performances, menacing settings, dreamlike tracking shots, and shock after shock into a milestone of the macabre. In a signature role, Jack Nicholson, in brackets here's Johnny. I don't know why it says that in brackets, because usually it would say what else he's known for. Plays Jack Torrance, who's come to the elegant, isolated Overlook Hotel as off-season caretaker with his wife, Shelley, Duvall, and son, Danny Lloyd. That's the actor names, not the character names. Torrance has never been there before, or has he? The answer lies in a ghostly time warp of madness and murder. So, as I mentioned there, The Shining was directed by Stanley Kubrick, who also did such films as Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Full Metal Jacket. All very, well, I say all, I've not actually seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, but Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket are very striking movies, and I think The Shining is also in that category. It came out in 1980, and it was based on the novel by Stephen King of the same name, but the film was more based on a screenplay written by Stanley Kubrick and Diane Johnson. So they adapted it. I believe they were given a script or a screenplay by Stephen King, but Stanley Kubrick decided to scrap it and do his own thing. I'm just going to very quickly check if there's anything else worth noting on here. I've only just realised there is a behind the scenes documentary on this DVD which would probably be quite insightful to watch. It says Vivian Kubrick's behind the scenes. I'm guessing that's his mum or his wife or daughter. I'll just show you the back picture. Oh dear, I can't see. Where is it? There we go. Very iconic scene. Now, I'm going to be very careful again in this video like I did in Taxi Driver, and I'm going to try and make sure that I don't give any spoilers away. Because part of my vision is, if you watch this video and you've not seen the film, is to maybe make you decide to give it a little shot. So, as always, I have my notes in front of me on my bright white screen, which is giving me a nice heavenly glimmer. So, I'm just going to start. The film lasts for 2 hours and 26 minutes, so it's not a short one. Okay, let me just see. So I've got quite a lot to get through here, so saddle up and all that sort of stuff. sources credited Stanley Kubrick solely for the film's success, without considering the efforts of the actors' crew or the strength of Stephen King's underlying material. Now I'm going to do my 6-minute check here to see we're still recording audio-wise, and I think we are. We are. Okay, this is always a delight. Nicholson and Duvall have said that the film was one of the hardest of their careers. Nicholson considers Duvall's performance the most difficult role he's ever seen an actress take on. Duvall also considers her performance the hardest of her life. On Dr. Phil in 2016, she claimed and still believes that the film has caused her permanent psychological damage, not from watching it, but from the experience that she was put through by the director. I'll come back to that later on in a bit more detail. Despite Stanley Kubrick's fierce demands on everyone, Jack Nicholson admitted to having a good working relationship with him. It was with Shelley Duvall that he was a completely different director. He allegedly picked on her more than anyone else, as seen in the documentaries Arena, Making The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick, A Life in Pictures. He would really lose his temper with her, even going so far as to say that she was wasting the time of everyone on the set. She later reflected that he was probably pushing her to her limits to get the best out of her, and that she wouldn't trade the experience for anything, but it was not something she ever wished to repeat. So, certainly a traumatic experience for her, especially getting the other cast and crew to kind of treat her in a similar way. I think I don't know if I mentioned it there, but some people claim that it was to try and help her in the character for the realness to come across in the movie, which to an extent is a good idea, but at the same time it's caused her permanent psychological damage, so that's not the best thing at all. And here's another one here to do with the controversial things or methods. To get Jack Nicholson into the right agitated mood, he was fed only cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks, which he hated. So he's not a cheese fan. Angelica Houston, who I believe plays, I want to say she's called Morticia Adams, don't quote me on that, from the Addams Family, the mother. She lived with Jack Nicholson during the time of the shooting for The Shining. She recalled that due to the long hours on the set and Stanley Kubrick's trademark style of repetitive takes, he would often return from a day's shooting, walk straight to bed, collapse onto it, and would immediately fall asleep. So, very grueling. The throwing around of the tennis ball inside the Overlook Hotel was Jack Nicholson's idea. The script originally only specified that Jack is not working. So that's very similar to in the previous video where I discovered that Robert De Niro had a similar thing in the film Taxi Driver, where it just said in the script Travis looks into the mirror or something like that. Quite a very generic comment, but then both Jack Nicholson and Robert De Niro have taken that a step further and have actually created 2 iconic moments. For the scene in which Jack breaks down the bathroom door, the props department built a door that could be easily broken. However, Jack Nicholson had worked as a volunteer fire marshal and tore it apart far too easily. The props department were then forced to build a stronger door. Now this is something that's not unknown. There was a lot of trivia about Stephen King and Kubrick's kind of clash. But anyway, Stephen King was quite disappointed in the final film, while admitting that Stanley Kubrick's visuals were stunning. He said that there was surface and no substance, and he often described the film as a fancy car without an engine, which is I mean, if you were Stanley Kubrick, you would probably take that to heart. According to Vivian Kubrick, who, again, I'll guess that's his wife, in her documentary, Stanley Kubrick's secretary spent weeks, if not months, typing dozens of pages. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. For the scene, I'm not going to say anything else there, I'm just going to leave it at that in case that does ruin it for anybody. But in the scene where that happens, apparently the secretary, I can't even say that word, the secretary spent weeks if not months typing all that out, so somebody had to actually type all that. Stanley Kubrick considered Robert De Niro and Robin Williams for the role of Jack Torrance, but decided against them. Kubrick did not think De Niro would suit the role after watching his performance in Taxi Driver, as he deemed De Niro not psychotic enough for the role. He did not think Williams would suit the role either after watching his performance on Mork and Mindy, as he deemed him too psychotic for the role. According to Stephen King, Kubrick also briefly considered Harrison Ford. Well, I think The Shining would have been a very different movie if it had been Robin Williams, for example. I think it would have scarred a lot of people, and Mrs. Doubtfire might not have been made in the same way. I don't think Harrison Ford would have been great in that part. Robert De Niro, I don't know, he'd probably be alright, but I think Jack Nicholson built the part off very well in terms of the intensity and the menace that he had on screen. So, as previously mentioned, Stanley Kubrick was famously very demanding and intimidating on set, and Shelley Duvall and Scatman Crothers, who plays, I can't remember the character's name, but he plays a guy who he worked at the hotel and then went back to his home for the winter. So anyway, both of those actors were reduced to tears, probably because they were getting pushed so hard. However, Stanley Kubrick did have a good relationship with the young Danny Lloyd, who plays, what's he called? Is he called Danny actually as well? Yeah, Danny Torrance. So the director had a good relationship with him. In later interviews as an adult, Danny Lloyd mentioned that Kubrick even used to play ball with him. For years after the movie, Kubrick sent Christmas cards to him and his family, and even phoned him up to congratulate him for his high school graduation. So he does have some sort of heart in him, goodness. Stephen King has never understood why people find this movie so scary, which I think I may have touched on in the previous video, but I can kind of see what he means. I'm not sure when that piece of trivia was kind of gathered, but I think for me watching it for the first time I wasn't particularly scared. But I think that may be because films have come on so much in the fear factor. Has that been wafting the whole time? Or I should have pushed it in or something. Oh no. Yeah, so I've just completely distracted myself there, and I've kicked the microphone stand under my foot. So I'm going to move on to the next one before it all crumbles. Stephen King did not know that murder spelled backwards was red rum until he actually typed it, and guessing that's for the novel that the film is based on. Stephen King got the idea for the book while his family and him were staying at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. They were the last guests before it was shut down. They were the last guests before it was shut down for the winter, and he saw a group of nuns leaving the hotel, and it got him thinking that the place had suddenly become godless. According to Stephen King, I'm going to roll here 4 Stephen King related things in a row, nothing to do with the film, but it kind of is. According to Stephen King, the title was inspired by the song Instant Karma by John Lennon, which features the chorus "We All Shine On." The 1921 photograph prop still survives intact and can be seen in the Stanley Kubrick exhibitions. Approximately 4,000 people auditioned for the role of Danny Torrance over a 6-month period. Jack Nicholson was Stanley Kubrick's first choice for the role of Jack Torrance. John Williams was initially set to provide the score until Stanley Kubrick decided to go with a different selection from a variety of different composers. Now, this is one of my favourite things that I discovered, and I'm going to summarise it because I've got a big paragraph here that I don't want to read out to you and seem too boring. So, apparently Jack Nicholson faked an injury to get some time off, and because of his star power it was granted. And he's a big fan of tennis, and Wimbledon was on. So, according to this piece of trivia, he went to Wimbledon and he appeared on TV at Wimbledon and got into a bit of bother with Stanley Kubrick for that, because obviously they were in the middle of filming a movie and he'd faked an injury and then was seen at Wimbledon with 2 women nonetheless. Warner Brothers, here's where it comes in, Exorcist links in. Warner Brothers previously offered Stanley Kubrick the chance to direct The Exorcist in '73. As well, the studio considered Jack Nicholson for the part of Father Karras in the same film, but eventual director William Friedkin didn't believe Nicholson could effectively play a priest. Again, it's one of those alternate universe things where imagining Jack Nicholson playing that role of, what is he called, Father Karras, it would give a different swing to the film. And I think, I'm trying to remember what the guy's called who played him in The Exorcist. He does turn up and stuff. He's quite tall and slim, and he's got white hair nowadays. Oh, that's going to annoy me. Yeah, so again, it would have been a very different movie. The 7-minute scene where Halloran discusses with Danny when he first arrives at the hotel about their shared ability to shine took a total of 148 takes. I would take that with a pinch of salt, because the other scene where Shelley Duvall's character is kind of swiping a baseball bat back and forwards, that apparently took around that, but then the cameraman and somebody else in the production team completely refuted that and said it took about 30. So who knows the reality there. But yeah, that's some of the facts about the movie The Shining, and there's a few things in there about the book and about Stephen King and his conflicts, because he didn't like the movie representation, and he thought that Shelley Duvall's character was portrayed very weakly, whereas Stanley Kubrick argued that the character in the book was written too strong to stay with a guy like Jack Torrance. So it swings and roundabouts. It's one of those things where people have got opinions and people want to see their opinions put on the big screen in whatever way they want. So yes, that was not The Exorcist, that was The Shining, and there's Jackie Boy there with his Cheshire Cat grin. So, hope you've enjoyed listening to some trivia about The Shining, and I will see you in the next video, whatever that's going to be. Maybe it's a final, or maybe it'll be another movie, who knows. But yeah, have a nice morning, afternoon, evening, or night, and I will see you soon.